Welcome to the Combining Images lesson. We're going to put a couple of elements together to create a background of one of my favorite TV shows. And if you'll notice, we use different kinds of graphics and elements to create one cohesive design. Now, there's some tricks and techniques that I want to go over in this lesson to kind of help you get used to using them in your designs. All right, so we're going to start it off by step one, download these files to complete the lesson. So I'm going to download them to my folder. So let me navigate to my folder. You should be navigating to your folder. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And I'm going to open that folder up and we're going to go ahead and unzip the file. So I'm going to right click on it and choose extract all. And then if you just go ahead and hit extract, it's going to automatically create an unzipped folder in the same folder where the zip file is. All right, so now if you'll take a look, I'm able to see all the images in the folder. And if you want to be able to see the images in your folder, all you have to do is go to View at the top of the folder and choose Large Icons. If you cannot see the pictures, then you are still inside the zipped folder. If I go inside the zip folder, this is what it looks like. I'm going to go to View Large Icons, and this is what you're going to see. This is still zipped. This is unzipped, and the unzipped files is what we need to complete the lesson. So, the only thing you need now is to open Photoshop. So go ahead and get Photoshop open. We're going to create a brand new document, and the two ways to do that is either Control N or go to File, New. See, there's a shortcut, Control N. Okay, this document is going to be 960 pixels. So 960, and notice it says inches. I got to change that to pixels. Oops, there we go. 960 pixels by 1024 pixels, and the resolution needs to be 72. All right, go ahead and hit OK. So this is the file where we're going to combine all of our images to make our background. So this is the one that we need to go ahead and save. So everybody go to File, Save As, and you're going to name this one. I'm not in my filters lesson. We already did that one. Now, there we go. I'm in the CI lesson. So it's going to be your last name, underscore, C as in cat, I as in igloo, and lesson. Notice the type should be Photoshop, the very first one, .psd. Go ahead and hit save. Now, remember, you need to save randomly throughout our lesson in case the power goes out or something goes wrong with your computer and it shuts down. You need to save often. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to be using the drag and drop method. So I'm going to open my folder on top of Photoshop. So now I'm going to grab the background one.jpg. This is what it looks like. See it? We're going to grab background one. We're going to drag and drop it right into the file. Notice that it already resized it to fit the width of my canvas. That's what we want. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter to accept the placement. And I'm going to grab my move tool and move it to the bottom of the page. Now, whatever you do, do not resize these. We need them to be exactly the size that they are. All right, now I'm going to go back and grab the second background. So here's the next background. I'm going to drag and drop it right into my document, move it to the top, and yes, they are supposed to overlap. So do not squish it. See that? No, we don't want to do that. So I'm going to undo that. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and accept the placement. So here's the thing. The trees in the forest is part of the theme behind the TV show, but I couldn't find one that didn't have the logo on it. So here's the thing, I want to use the woods, but I don't want that particular logo. So I'm going to show you a trick to get rid of unwanted things in your images. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in, and remember that is Control and your plus sign. Okay, I'm going to hold down space bar, and then I can click and drag and move it wherever I want it to be. All right, so we're going to use our magic wand today to select this logo. So I'm going to get the magic wand. Your tolerance up top should be 30. So if you look at the top in your options bar, you'll see tolerance, and you need to put that at 30. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to click in the O. Now notice it didn't get everything, so I need to add to my selection by holding down Shift. So now I'm going to come in and I'm going to select some of the star. We don't have to select all of it. See, look, that's what happens when you try to select too much. So I'm going to Control Z to undo. Now this time hopefully I won't get so much. There we go. We just want enough of the star. Don't worry about getting it perfect. It ain't going to happen, okay? This is about swift, not perfection here. We're going to take care of that here in a minute. Now I'm going to keep holding down Shift, and I'm going to come in and start getting all the end. And it's got a little star over here. Make sure you get that. Now I'm going to go get the C. So you should be adding to your selection by holding down Shift. If you need to zoom in, you can. Holding down your space bar will keep it a hand, and you can move it where you need to be. Now you don't have to get the letters perfect, but you want to get as much of them as you can. Okay, so I'm just holding down Shift and going and clicking. Here we go. I'm getting all these little extra areas. And now I'm going to go get the E. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to get as much as you can. So now I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, and I'm going to come in and start getting the Upon a Time. Oh, missed some of the O there. There we go. And some letters it's getting them perfectly and some aren't. Here we go. All right. Oh, missed that part. There we go. All right, so I'm going to zoom back out so we can see what we're doing. All right, so right now with the selection that we have, I'm going to show you what would happen if we go ahead and do the trick right now. Don't do this with me, just watch the screen for a second. So here I go, I'm going to go in. Oh, I'm not on a layer. Oh, looky there. See the little box right there? That means we need to rasterize. So I'm going to come over here on the layer, right click and choose rasterize layer. All right, so now I can go to edit, and I'm going to show you what happens if I did this exactly how it is. And looky there, we have got way too much of that logo left. So I'm going to show you what we can do to make sure that that doesn't happen. So I'm going to go ahead and undo. There we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to expand our selection just a little bit. So I'm going to go over here to select. I'm going to go to modify and expand. Now, every image that you do this on, you're going to have to play with this a little bit. Some images you're only going to expand about 3 pixels, and some you're going to expand by 30. Okay, it just depends on your image. So just pick a random number, try it, and see what happens. Okay, since I've already done that for us, we can go ahead and put in 5 pixels. So we're expanding by 5 pixels. See how I expanded away from the letters? Now, here's the thing. We also don't want to have an exact straight line where those selections are. So we're going to feather that just a little bit. So we're going to go to Select, Modify, and Feather. Now this feathering is also going to depend on your image. Sometimes you're going to need 5 and sometimes you're going to need 50. In the case of this, we only need 3. So on your feather radius, make sure it says 3 pixels and then click OK. All right, so now we're ready to do the trick. So we're going to go in and we're going to go to Edit, and fill, edit and fill. And then on your contents right here, yeah, you can choose a couple different options. In this case, we want content aware. Now, the thing that you have to remember about this is Photoshop guessing, okay? Sometimes this is going to work absolutely perfectly, and other times you may still have to do some fixing, okay? Because this is Photoshop guessing what goes in our selection, okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to go and deselect. And looky there. Oh, I should have feathered a little bit more. But that's all right. We're not going to worry about it right now. Actually, let's go ahead and fix it real quick. All right, you should have your history up here. So on your history button, if you do not have your history button, then you need to go to Window and choose History. Okay, I'm going to pull up my history and I'm going to go back to where I feathered. So I feathered here, so I'm going to go to one step before that. So here's my expand. Now I'm going to feather it this time. Let's feather it by 5. All right, to select, modify, and feather. And this time we're only going to feather by 3 pixels. Actually, let's try 2 this time. So we're going to hit OK. And let's go do the wonderful, wonderful trick real quick. So edit and fill and content aware. Now what you have to remember, this is Photoshop guessing what's going to go into these selections, okay? It analyzes all the pixels around it and decides what they're going to put in it. Now sometimes it does this perfectly and sometimes it doesn't. You're going to have to play with it a little. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, and then I'm going to deselect, and look at that. That looks amazing. Now we still have a little bit of distortion here because they have a little glass in the middle of the O, but we're going to be putting a bunch of images on top of it. So let's wait and see if we need to actually go back and fix that. All right, so the next thing that we need to do, I've had a lot of people asking me how to make one image fade into another image. Now, remember, I've always said there's 5 or 6 ways to do everything in Photoshop. But for me, I feel that this is the easiest way for me. So I'm going to show you how to do it my way, and then you can decide if you think that's the easiest way for you. All right, so the first thing we need to do is we need to grab our eraser tool. So let's go over here into our tools. There it is, eraser tool. Now, the thing you have to remember about the eraser tool, a lot of it depends on your hardness and your size. Okay, now because we're wanting this to fade from one image to another, we don't want an exact line around our eraser brush. So that hardness has to be on 0. All right, now this is where size comes into play. The bigger the brush, the bigger the fade. Okay, if we do a little brush, if you'll notice, there's not much of a fade there. If I zoom in, you can barely tell. See how it's barely fading? Okay, so in this case, a little brush isn't going to give us the nice fade that we want to go from one image to another. So we're actually going to make our brush a lot bigger. It should be somewhere in the 200s. Okay, don't care where. All right, now watch what I'm going to do. Oops. I'm going to use the edge of that big circle on this forest. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to come up here to the edge of the forest, and am I erasing? Yes, well, there we go. Notice how I'm keeping the edge of my brush on that line, because we don't want a line. We want it to fade from one image to the other. So I'm just barely brushing on that line. Now, do not get too far up or you're going to see the line from the image below, okay? So just barely use the edge of that brush and go all the way across that line. So now this image is fading into this image. Okay. All right, you better save. We've done a lot. So Control S to save. Okay, so we've got our background ready to go. So now we can start actually layering our other images. So we're going to go back into our folder and we're going to get all the character images. If you'll notice, you've got a set of 4 people that have a before image and a now image. The way that this TV show works is you've got a set of characters that are from the fairy tale land. Okay, and they have been brought to our real world by a curse. And here in the real world, they don't know anything about magic. They don't remember anything about their fairy tale land. So they look very, very normal. So I've got their before image. So this is what they look like before the curse, and then this is what they look like now. And we have a total of 8 images. Now, if you'll notice, they're kind of spread out in the folder. I want to be able to drag all of those in at the exact same time. So I'm going to show you how to select multiple pictures at a time. So I'm going to click on Charming Before, and I'm going to hold down Control on my keyboard. And I'm going to come in and hit Charming Now. We're not ready for Emma and Henry. They're separate. Okay, so now we're going to go scroll down and I'm going to get Regina before, Regina now, and I'm just holding control and clicking on each image that I want. And there's Rumple before and Rumple now, and Snow before and Snow now. So now I have all of my character pictures that I need right now selected. So now to drag them into my document, you have to make sure that you click on an image that you're wanting to go. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to click on the image and I'm going to drag it into my document. And it's going to drag all of them at the same time. But Photoshop always asks for how you want them placed. Okay? So we have to place every single one of those. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and just hit enter and keep hitting enter until all of them are there. Okay, so now we're going to start arranging them. Okay, don't worry about the size. Do not resize them. We'll resize all of them at the same time. So I'm going to drag Regina down here. And then Prince Charming's going to go up in the corner over here. And Snow White's going to go in this corner. And then Rumple's going to come down here in this corner. Now, if you'll notice, I made sure that their now backgrounds all matched. That means I am using consistency or repetition in my design. I also made sure that their fairy tale characters all had the same background also. That way I'm being consistent throughout my design. All right, so here's the thing. If we look at how I have them arranged right this minute, in order to overlap them, you'll notice that part of Snow is being cut off because it's underneath that now picture. So one of the reasons that I went and found these now images and used them is notice there's a big space over here where the images could overlap and it not cut into the actual person. Because if you'll notice right now, every single one of them are getting cut off some way, somehow. All right, so we need to make sure that that is not happening. Okay, it is very, very unprofessional to be covering up half of the character. So this is what I'm going to do. I need this character to be behind her fairy tale character. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go into my layers, and if you'll notice, look, Snow now is above Snow before. That means it's going to be on top of it in our canvas. So I'm going to grab that now layer and I'm going to drag it underneath the before layer. So now her Snow White fairy tale image is above the now image. So now I need to rearrange them. So I'm going to put Snow White in the corner now. And then I'm going to drag her now picture where it can overlap. But notice it's not cutting into her image of her. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing with Prince Charming. So I'm going to drag this one up to the corner. And then I'm going to drag his now. Oh, I need to move him. So I'm going to go into my layers and I'm going to grab the now and put it underneath the before. All right, so they need to overlap about the same amount of space that this one is overlapping in. Okay, we got to be consistent. All right, so, oh, a little too much there. All right, don't worry about getting it perfect. We're going to resize them here in just a minute. All right, so let's go down here to Regina, and I need to do the same thing. So her now image needs to go underneath the before. Okay, and luckily they're already arranged correctly. So now I'm going to bring Regina down. There we go. That looks pretty good. And now let's do the same thing with Rumple. So I'm going to look over here, put Rumple now underneath the before. All right, and I probably need to drag this down a little. Here we go. Notice it's kind of cutting into his shoulder there, so I'm going to have to arrange him a little bit different. There we go. Okay, so here's the thing. You have to make sure that you have enough space in between the images because we don't want those to actually be touching. So what we're going to do is we're going to resize all of these images at the same time. Okay, because right now they're all the exact same size, so that means we're being consistent. Well, if we try to resize one, then we have to go and individually resize all of them. And that just is a ridiculous amount of waste of time, okay? All right, so there's two ways that you can select multiple layers in a design. You can come over to an image and then hold down Shift and click on the other images. Okay, see how I'm holding down Shift and I'm clicking on each one. Another way that you can do it is you can go and look in your layers palette. Okay, you can hold down Control and click on individual layers. Or for this case, it's going to be a lot faster if we do this method. So scroll all the way up to the top of your layers. I'm going to collapse my character palette so we can see better. So here's the very top of my layers and I have Regina selected. It's highlighted. Now I'm going to go down all the way to the first character image. I'm going to hold down Shift first. Then I'm going to click on the bottom one. Notice it selected all of the layers in between those two. So now I can grab a corner. Remember, we do not stretch and we do not squish images. So don't just come in here and start grabbing like this. To do this proportionately, you have to hold down Shift. Watch what happens when I push Shift. Looky there. Now it will resize proportionately. Okay, so we're going to make them smaller. Okay, accept the transform. Now we need to arrange them a little bit different. So I'm going to click away from my canvas so it unselects the layers. Now I'm going to come over here and start arranging them again. Because here's the thing, we put all these neat characters at the bottom. We don't want to cover those up, okay? So we're going to rearrange and see if we have made enough space. We want them to be nice and big, but we don't want them to interfere with each other. All right, if we take a look, I didn't make mine small enough. So I'm going to go back into my layers here and I'm going to Shift and click. So I selected them all again and I'm going to make it smaller. All right, I'm going to hit accept. Now I'm going to move them around a little bit more again. Oh, and looky there. Now I can get off of Little Red Riding Hood's head and, oops. Got to accept the placement there. There we go. And now I can make sure that nobody's being cut off. Nobody's getting their head chopped off there. Nobody's getting cut into their character. And there's plenty of room and space between them. All right, so we've talked about consistency in our designs. Well, we also need to think about alignment. Everything in a design should line up to something else. So if we take a look, this image here and this image here should be aligned properly. So I'm going to select both of them. So I'm going to click on Snow Fairy Tale or Before. I'm going to hold down Shift and I'm going to go click on Prince Charming. So now both of them are selected. I need those to line up from side to side. So I'm going to go up here to our alignment and figure out, hey, which one is lining up this way? Well, that would be this little button right here. So I'm going to click on that button and now they line up. Now I'm going to click away to unselect them. And now I'm going to go and get Prince Charming and Rumple. Well, they need to line up and down, not side to side. So I go up here and I look, which one says up and down? Looky there. Got a line going through the middle, up and down. So now those two are lined up. So now I'm going to go make sure Regina and, oh, look, see how far off they are? They are going across. So I'm going to grab the one that has the line going the same way. Okay, now I'm going to make sure that Mary and Regina line up straight up and down. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the middle images. So I'm going to grab these two and make sure they line up. Click away. Now I'm going to grab these two and they need to line up and down. And then Regina and Rumple across the middle. And then Mary and Regina across the middle. There we go. So now we know for a fact that all of our images are aligned properly. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put in our new logo. So, oh, don't forget to save, Control S. All right, so now I'm going to go back into my folder and looky there, there is a logo already cut out and ready to go. So I'm going to drag it from my folder into my file. And I'm going to grab a corner to resize it. And yes, I'm holding down Shift. You want your logo to fit right here in the middle, but not cut into anybody's faces, okay? But you still want it to overlap your images just a little bit. Once you're happy with the size, go ahead and either hit enter or click the little check mark to accept the transform. Alrighty, so it's perfect. It's ready to go. Now, if you'll remember, at the beginning of this, we had a silver Once Upon a Time logo. But if we look at our images that we're going to be using, you'll notice that this book has gold in it. So instead of making the logo silver, we're going to make it gold. All right, so the first thing we need to do is we need to go get that gold style. So everybody needs to go up to your styles palette. If you do not see your styles palette, you go to window and then click on styles. And you've got a little more button. See the little lines over here? That's your little more button. So you're going to click on it and you're going to choose load styles. All right, so let's go find our folder. So there's my class folder. Oh, there's CI lesson. And looky there, there's a set of styles in there ready to go for you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select that. And now if I scroll to the bottom of my styles, you'll notice I have two brand new styles there. We're going to use the first one. That's our gold. So we're going to click on it and it's going to make our logo gold. Perfect. Looking great. All right, so the next thing that we need to do is we need to bring in Emma and Henry. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to go and we've got to do these two a little bit different. And one thing that I've noticed is a lot of people are having issues with cutting people out. And the biggest problem with cutting people out is the hair. Everybody's going to have issues when they're trying to get animals and their hair and people and their hair. It gets very complicated. Okay, but I'm going to show you a wonderful quick trick that we can use to cut people out easily. So we're going to open Emma up in her own document. So we're not ready to drag and drop it in here yet. So I'm going to grab Emma and I'm going to come up to the top up here. So it says copy and then I'm going to let go. That opens Emma in her own document up here at the top. All right, so I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so I can see her. And the quickest way to get the selection is going to be our magic wand because we have a solid white background behind her. All right, so everybody grab their magic wand. Your tolerance should still be 30. Let's go in and let's click in the white. Everybody see that? Now I'm going to hold down Shift to add to my selection and get this area right here. And then I'm going to go get this area. So I'm still holding down Shift. And then I'm going to go get this area. And yes, I'm still holding down Shift. All right, so now we need to work on Emma, not the background. So we're going to flip our selection, okay? So we're going to go to Select and Inverse. So now instead of all the white being selected, everything but the white is being selected. Okay, now if you'll notice, I got a weird little patch over here, so I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to hold down Alt and I'm going to click over there and it'll take care of that. All right, so here's the trick. Do you see right up here where it says Refine Edge? That's what we're going to do. So we're going to click on the Refine Edge. And then you've got a couple different views here. Since our document is already white, this isn't going to help us very much, okay? So we're going to choose on black. All right, so now I can see my actual selection and what she'll look like when I cut her out. And if you'll notice, it's really blunt and I've still got some white over here in her hair and it's real choppy. We don't want that, okay? So once you choose your on black, and every image will be different, okay? So sometimes you're going to want to use the black and white, sometimes you're going to want to use on black, on white, whatever. In this case, we're going to just go ahead and stick with the black. We're going to go ahead and we're going to click the Smart Radius here and we're going to change the radius to 1.0 for the pixel. And then on the feather, we're going to 0.5. All right, so now if you take a look, it's a little bit smoother around her hair, but we're still missing some white spots, okay? So remember, always start in the color that you're trying to get rid of. So you don't want to come over here and just start coloring on her face. Look, it's taking it away. We don't want that, okay? So we're going to click in the white and then we're going to go around the very edge of her hair. Make sure you get this whole area right here to get all that white. And looky there, look at that selection, so much better. Now I'm going to go around this edge of her hair. Here we go, just following that edge. And then let go. Look at how much better that selection is. So now I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And now she's ready to copy and paste. So I'm going to Control C to copy. I'm going to come over here to our lesson and Control V to paste. Do not resize her or anything, just leave her right where she is. But look at the way her hair is so much better being cut out. And we don't have big white choppy places. It's perfect. All right, so now we need to go do the exact same thing with with Henry. So I'm going to close Emma because I'm done with her. Now I'm going to do the same thing with Henry. So I'm going to drag Henry in and I'm going to get my magic wand and I'm going to select the white areas, hold down Shift and click in those white areas. All right, so let's go ahead and inverse our selection. All right, we're going to go to Refine Edge and we're going to do the same thing. And remember, you're going to have to play with your image. Even though these settings are working for these two pictures, that doesn't mean that those are the exact settings you will need. You're going to have to play with all the settings, okay? I'm going to go ahead and click the Smart Radius, and I'm going to give it 1 pixel again. I'm going to come down to Feather and give it 0.5. And then I'm going to use the edge of my brush just to go around the edge of his head. We don't want to go too far into his head or it'll start taking the whites like the white of his eyes. We don't want that. All right, once you're happy with it, go ahead and hit OK. Now he is ready to copy and paste. So I'm going to copy him. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to paste. And looky there. So now we have Emma and Henry. Now here's the thing. You don't want them to be the exact same height because he's like 9 years old. There's no way he's as tall as she is. So what we're going to do is we're going to move Henry a little bit down and a little bit in front of her. Notice they're still overlapping. Now I'm going to select both Emma and Henry at the same time. So I'm going to hold down Shift and click on Emma. So now I have Emma and Henry. Oh, I better change my name layer, my layer names so that I know which one's which. So I'm going to use the little eyeball and I'm going to see, okay, that's Emma. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to type in Emma. And then on the layer 2, that's Henry. So now I'm going to change that to Henry. Okay, so now I'm going to select both of those layers and I'm going to resize them at the same time. Remember, we do not squish or stretch, so make sure you click on a corner. Now it takes us into transform, and we're going to hold down Shift and click and drag to make them smaller. All right, so we're going to make them smaller. Now they can cover the logo a little bit, but you don't want to take up too much. But what we really want is we want their cut off legs up here in the clouds. Because here's the thing, our brains as a whole absolutely hates to think about severed limbs. Okay? It just hates it. That's that fight or flight response. Okay? So here's the thing. For some reason, our brain is more likely to accept the fact that they're floating in the clouds than to accept the fact that their legs are cut off. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually make it look like they are floating in these clouds. Okay? Now remember, I told you I can't draw to save my life. So here's another trick for you. Let's go ahead and accept the placement of Emma and Henry. Okay, now I'm going to go to the very top layer up here. I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to click on this little button down here that says New Layer. Okay, so this is going to be our Clouds layer. So I'm going to go ahead and rename it, and I'm going to name it Clouds. All right, so now I'm going to come over and I'm going to get my paintbrush. So you need to come over here and get your paintbrush. And up at the top, we've got all these options. This is where we get to choose our paintbrush. So click the little down arrow. And then you've got a little more buttons. Looks like a little gear or cog. Okay, go ahead and click on it. And we're going to choose Load Brushes. Okay, Load Brushes. All right. So if you'll notice, I've got a set of brushes. I'm in my class folder. I'm in the CI lesson, and it says Image Lesson Brushes. I'm going to go ahead and double click to accept that. And now I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of my paintbrushes. And if you'll notice, I've got a ton of clouds here. And then at the very beginning of the clouds, we've got one little star brush. Okay. Right now, what we care about are the cloud brushes. Now, I gave you a lot of cloud brushes, and here's why. Clouds in real life never look exactly the same as another cloud. So, you cannot use any of these clouds more than once. Did you hear that? One time. That's why I gave you so many clouds to choose from. But if you'll notice how it says like 2500, 1978. That's how big the brushes are. That's really awesome. This is a very good set of brushes because if I have a document that's going to be 300 in the resolution, then that brush is going to be perfect size for it. But since our document is only 72, watch what happens when I click on a brush. So I'm going to click on a brush and I'm going to go over here. Oh my goodness, do you see how big that brush is? We do not need it that big. So we're going to come up here to the size up top and we're going to type in 120. So 120. Hit enter on your keyboard and now look at that brush. It's the perfect size. All right, so the next thing that we have to think about is I can't just put white clouds here Well, look at the background. Those aren't white clouds. They're all different clouds, like there's a storm coming in. So we're going to choose colors from those clouds to make our clouds with those colors. And yes, we do use the eyedropper tool to do that. But it would take a lot of time and effort to go click on the eyedropper, go get the color, go back and get the paintbrush. No, there's a wonderful little trick. So I've already got my cloud brush. So everybody pick a cloud. I don't care which one, just pick one. Change the size to 120. And then I'm going to come over here and hold down Alt on my keyboard. Look what happens to my cursor. It goes from cloud brush to eyedropper. And that's perfect. So now I'm going to sample one of these colors that are around Emma and Henry. So this time I'm going to choose, I don't know, this color. Okay. So that's, look, notice your foreground color is that color. So now I can come in and click once on Emma's legs. Look, that color matches. That's awesome. So now I'm going to go get a different cloud. Okay. Doesn't matter which one. Just pick a cloud. Change it to 120. Now I'm going to hold down Alt and I'm going to get a different color cloud. Okay. Come over here and click once. Now I'm going to go get another one. And you're just going to keep doing this until their legs are covered completely. Okay, and make sure that you're getting a different color every time. See, look how it's mixing those colors. It makes it look more realistic. So now I'm going to go pick another one and I'm going to change it to 120. Oops, I didn't select that right. There we go, 120. Go get a different color. This time I'm going to get a little bit darker. Get a dark one here. And looky there. See what I'm doing? I'm just layering all the different colors and all the different clouds. So I'm going to change 120. Let's grab a different color, maybe over here. Let's get a light one. Ooh, looky there. That's awesome. All right, so now I'm going to go get another one. Change it to 120. Get a different color. And I'm going to layer it right on top. See? Oh, her leg's still showing right here, so I need to get some more. So now I'm going to go get another cloud. Change it to 120. Let's get a little bit darker. All right. Now come over here, and I'm going to cover her leg. Oh, still can see it a little bit. Get another one. 120. And you're just going to keep doing this until you cannot tell anymore that their legs are cut off. That's what matters. We need them to look like they are actually floating in the clouds. All right, there we go. That looks much better. All right, so now their clouds are done. They're not just cut off limbs anymore. Now notice, let me show this to you real quick. So if we look at these other pictures, so this picture, he is being cut off right here at the waist. But because it is a rectangle and has a background, our brain automatically thinks, hey, that's a picture. They just didn't take it of his legs. Okay? Our brain can accept the fact that we didn't do that. But when you just have a character out here just with cut off legs, your brain is stuck on the fact that their legs are cut off. It doesn't look like a picture, therefore, our brain does not say, hey, you know what? They just didn't take a picture of his legs. So that's why we're hiding the fact that those legs are cut off. You don't ever want to just have something cut off like that. If that's the case, either find a way to hide it like we are, or move it to the bottom edge of your image, or go find a new image. One or the other, okay? All right, so we chose to hide their legs this time. All right, so the next thing that we need to do is we need to give some styles to these pictures because everything is very, very two-dimensional here. You'll notice that the logo with its layer styles, it looks like it's raising up off the images, and that's because of that wonderful little drop shadow right there, okay? So we need to give some depth and dimension to our design with these pictures because right now they're just thrown on there and anybody can do that in Microsoft Word. Now we're going to make them look nice. So go ahead and pick one of the character images. I don't care which one. Okay, so I'm going to come in and I'm going to go on to the right hand side of the layer. Okay, not on the name, not on the thumbnail, but over here on the layer, and I'm going to double click. This brings up your layer styles. Now, one thing that is new with this Photoshop is the styles over here on the left hand side. In this Photoshop, none of these should actually be here. Okay, these are the styles that were used on whatever project I was using the last time I used Photoshop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of them all. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to get rid of every one of them. Oh, got to click on it. Click on the style and hit the little trash can. Does everybody see that? I'm going to do it again. Click on the style and hit the trash can. That way we're getting rid of all of those old styles. We don't need any of those styles. Okay, we're going to add our own new style. So I'm just getting rid of all of them. Okay. And now that they're all gone, we've got a clean slate. We can have whatever styles we want. And you'll notice that all of your styles are right here under FX. So I'm going to click on it and I'm going to give it a drop shadow. Now, everybody's is always going to be different, okay? This is what it looked like the last time that I used it. So I'm going to click this right here, the reset to default. So it gets rid of all those unwanted why are you not resetting? Oh, I must have made that my decal or my default. I apologize. I'm going to put it back. So yours should have went back. If it didn't, then we're going to change these settings. So on opacity, it should be 75. Okay. We don't want to use a global light. We're not going to worry about that. We want it to go off to the side a little bit. So I'm going to move it over here. Now notice, which one am I doing this to? Ah, Regina. See, here is our shadow. Okay, and wherever you move that, you're basically telling it where the light source is. Okay, in this case, we're going to say that the light source is over here, so it casts the shadow over here. That's the angle. All right, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to tell it how far away we want it to be and how far out we want it to go. Okay. All right, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make these look like actual pictures. So we're going to add a stroke. So go down to the FX down below and we're going to click on stroke. All right, so when you do that, you've got these options over here. We're going to change the color to white and we're going to change the size to 3 is not quite enough, maybe 4. There we go. And then on the position, we're going to choose inside. The rest of it should be the same. And we're going to go ahead and hit OK. Now here's the thing. Do you really want to have to do that over and over for every one of these images? Not me. So we're going to do a wonderful little trick. Okay. So here's the Regina where I gave her her shadow and her stroke on there. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to right click on her layer. See right here where it says copy layer style? That's what we want. So I'm going to click on copy your layer style and I'm going to go to the other images, all of them, and click paste layer style. So I'm going to go to each one of those pictures. I'm going to click on the layer, right click on the layer, and then choose paste layer style. So the exact styles that I used on the very first one are now being applied to each one of these layers. Okay, that keeps everything consistent and uses repetition. That's what we want. Okay, all right, and then we're going to paste it on Rumples. And looky there, all 8 images now have the lines and the drop shadow. So it's given it a little more depth and dimension. All right, so let's go get the next thing that we're going to do is you'll notice that I've got a couple weird little pieces in here. Like here's an apple, an arrow, a book. a dagger, a sword. All of these are little things from the TV show. So the evil queen, Regina, she uses an apple. So we're going to grab the apple and we're going to drag and drop it in here. Uh-oh, look, mine's behind them. I'm going to have to move it up after I place it. So I'm going to hit enter. Now I need to move the apple to the very top layer. There we go. Now we can see it. All right, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit. We're going to get rid of the white on it. And if you'll notice, we have a little box right here. That means we have to rasterize. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose rasterize layer. All right, so let's grab our magic wand and let's click in the white area. Now if you notice, you got a little shadow down here. So I'm going to hold down shift and I'm going to go and select the little shadow down below. Does everybody see that? And I'm trying to get rid of these little ones. There we go. Perfect. All right, so now that I've got that selected, I can come in. Oh, what are you doing? There we go. And I can hit delete on my keyboard. And looky there, that is gone. That's what we want. So now I'm going to move this over here, but now it looks pretty flat because it doesn't have a shadow. So I'm going to make it smaller first, get it arranged where I want it to be. There we go. Accept the placement. And now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to double click and I'm going to give it a drop shadow. I'm not even going to change the settings. That looks pretty good to me. So now I'm going to hit OK. Alrighty, so now we need to go get everything else. So here's the arrow. I'm going to drag and drop it. The arrow is actually going to go with Snow White up here in the corner. So I'm going to rotate it around. Come on, rotate. There we go. And then I'm going to resize it. So I'm grabbing a corner and holding down shift. And I'm going to resize it. There we go. I'm going to hit enter to place it. Now here's the thing, I need a drop shadow on it also. So I'm going to go back and copy this layer style to paste it on the arrow. So I'm going to go to Apple and I'm going to choose copy layer style. And now I'm going to go to the arrow layer and I'm going to paste layer style. So that means they both have the same drop shadow. All right, next I'm going to go get the sword for Prince Charming. Alrighty, I'm going to make it smaller, bring it over to Prince Charming and rotate it. There we go. And I'm going to paste that layer style again because I've already copied it. Alright, now let's go back and get Rumple's dagger. And we're just going to rotate it a little bit. Accept the placement. And I'm going to paste the layer style again, just like I did for the others. Alrighty, the next thing is the book. So let's scroll until we find the book. There's the book. So now I'm going to drag and drop it. Ooh, it's really big. Gonna have to make it smaller. And I'm going to rotate it just a little bit and make it a little bit smaller. There we go. And I'm going to accept the placement, hit enter on my keyboard, and I'm going to paste the layer style again. Oh, there it is. All right, so now they all have drop shadows. Looky there. Look at how nice and cohesive this is looking. All right, the last thing that we need to do is we need to add some stars. And remember, I do not draw. Okay, so I found a wonderful brush for us to use. But the first thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that we're not going to be painting on one of the layers that are already here. Because once you paint it on there, guess what? It's stuck. It's on that layer forever until you cut it or erase it or something. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to go over to our layer palette and let's scroll all the way to the very top. So click on the very top layer. Now we're going to add a new layer. See the little new layer button again? Okay, so I'm going to click to add a new layer. Okay, let's go grab our paintbrush and we want this color to be white. Okay, because we're going to add some layer styles to it. So if you look, you've got a little box right here that has black and white. If you click on it, it makes that your default colors. Then you've got a little switcheroo button right here. So I'm going to click on it and it's going to make the white come to the front. Okay. Now I'm going to go get my paintbrush, and now I need to come up here to the top and find the star brush that I gave you. Okay, it says 120 on it. It should be the very first one before all of your cloud brushes. All right, so I'm going to click on that to select it. And I'm going to come over here and I am going to click somewhere in my design. Now, if you'll notice, that is a little bitty white star there, but we really can't see it and we need it to go with our logo. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply a layer style to this little star. So if you take a look, I gave you two layer styles. We've already used the gold. Now we're going to use, and I even named it for you. Looky there, star style. So I'm going to click on it. And now look at my little star. It is gold, just like my gold logo. So now I'm going to add another new layer and I'm going to go add a star somewhere else. There's another new star. And you'll notice all these stars are different sizes. That's a good brush. All right, so now I'm going to click and so I can apply the layer style to it. Now I'm going to add another new layer. And this time I'm going to come over here, give myself a star. Look at that pretty star. And I'm going to apply the style. Okay, everywhere you go to add a style, a star, you need a new layer. Because if you look at this actual layer style, notice how it goes from white in the middle and it fans out into yellow. That's how this layer style works. Okay, but if I put two stars far apart from each other on the same layer, you ready? Watch. I'm going to show you what happens. So here's my star here. I'm going to come over here and click. Where'd the white go? That's because it's applying the layer style to both of them. So that white is somewhere in the middle of here. Okay, we don't want that. That's why we're adding a new layer every time we want to add a star so that our layer style works correctly. So now I'm going to come down here. Ooh, that's a nice big one. And then I'm going to click on the style. So go ahead and put a couple of stars with their layer styles. Once you do that, guess what, guys? We are done. All you need to do now is put your name on it. Make sure it's in a nice decorative font and give it some layer styles for your name. Once you have that done, save it as a JPEG and turn it in. We are done. Good job.